Imagine waking up to realize that every memory you own, every emotion you feel, and every dream you have ever had isn't actually yours. It was manufactured. It was chosen for you by a needle, a pill, and the very water you drink. For 2 entire seasons of Silo, we watched Juliette Nichols fight against the suffocating walls of the earth, the lies of Judicial, and the toxic air of the outside world. But as we step into the premiere of Season 3, Jules is about to discover a truth far more terrifying than the wasteland outside. The greatest prison isn't the concrete structure she lives in. It is the chemical cocktail running through her veins. The authorities told us the drugs were meant to keep people safe, to keep the peace, and to stop the panic. They lied. The shocking truth about Jules' drugs changes absolutely everything we know about the history of the silo, the fate of the Flamekeepers, and the horrifying future that awaits anyone who dares to wake up. The air inside the lower levels of the silo always tastes like rusted iron and old sweat, but to Juliette Nichols, it suddenly tastes like poison. As she sits in the dim, flickering light of her hidden sanctuary, the silence is deafening. For the first time in her life, her head is entirely clear. The constant, dull fog that has sat behind her eyes since childhood is gone, replaced by a sharp, agonizing reality. This is the reality of raw withdrawal. To understand the shocking truth of what is happening to Jules, we have to look closely at the mechanical perfection of the silo's control system. For over 200 years, the leaders of this underground world have maintained order not just through fear, and not just through the threat of being sent outside to clean. They have maintained order through a highly sophisticated, invisible system of chemical submission. It is a system that starts the moment a citizen takes their first breath and follows them to the grave. It is built into the very infrastructure of. Every morning, millions of gallons of water are pumped through the massive, winding pipes of the silo, traveling from the deep, mysterious depths of the lower levels all the way up to the elite apartments of the IT department. To the average worker down in mechanical, it is just water. It is what they use to wash the grease from their hands, cook their meager meals, and quench their thirst after a brutal 12-hour shift. But hidden within that water is a microscopic, tasteless, and completely odorless sedating agent. It is a calculated microdose designed to keep the human nervous system in a permanent state of mild compliance. It does not make people sleepy or sluggish. Instead, it gently shaves off the sharpest edges of human emotion. It dampens intense anger, it softens deep grief, and most importantly, it suppresses intense curiosity. It is the reason why hundreds of people can live stacked on top of each other in a dark, concrete tube for generations without completely losing their minds or tearing the structure down. It is the chemical glue holding their fragile society together. This brings us to the Flamekeepers, the legendary group of rebels who tried to preserve the true history of the world before the authorities wiped it out. For years, we believed the Flamekeepers were defeated simply by brute force, executions, and nighttime arrests. But the truth is far more sinister. The Flamekeepers were chemically castrated of their memories. The authorities realized that killing a rebel only creates a martyr, which can inspire a new generation to fight. But if you take a rebel and slowly, systematically destroy their ability to remember why they were fighting in the first place, you destroy the rebellion completely. You turn a fierce, passionate leader into a hollow shell who stares blankly at the wall, unable to recall the name of their own movement. This is what happened to Jules' mother, and it is the exact same fate that the IT department had planned for Julie. However, the planners of the silo made one critical, catastrophic mistake when it came to Juliette Nichols. They underestimated the raw, physical resilience of a woman who spent her entire life working in the brutal environment of the generator rooms. Jules' body was built differently. Years of breathing in heavy machine oil, dealing with toxic fumes, and enduring extreme physical stress had altered her metabolism. When she was given the standard doses of the compliance drugs, her liver and kidneys processed the toxins at nearly double the rate of an average citizen. Her body was actively fighting off the chemical chains without her even realizing it. While the drugs successfully kept her anger in check, they could not touch her curiosity. Her mind remained sharp, constantly searching for the missing pieces of the puzzle, driven by a deep, biological resistance to the invisible cage they were building around her mind. The breaking point arrived when Jules made her desperate escape into the outside world. The specialized suit she wore, engineered with secret help from her allies, did more than just protect her from the toxic atmosphere outside, it completely cut her off from the silo's chemical ecosystem. For the first time in her life, she was not drinking the laced water, she was not taking the mandatory medical supplements, and she was not breathing the treated air of the enclosure. The sudden, total absence of these chemicals triggered a massive biological shock to her system. As her body violently flushed out the remnants of the compliance drugs, the invisible veil dropped. The world didn't just look different, it felt different. The numb, comfortable reality she had known her entire life shattered into a million pieces, exposing the raw, terrifying truth of her existence. Now, as Season 3 begins, Jules is facing the true horror of being entirely clean. Without the emotional dampeners, her grief for the people she has lost hits her like a physical blow. The anger she feels toward the authorities burns with a terrifying, uncontrollable intensity. But with that pain comes an incredible power. Her memory is unlocking. Secrets she didn't even know she possessed, conversations from her childhood, small details on old maps, and the true meaning behind her mother's final words, are rushing back into her consciousness with perfect clarity. She is no longer just a mechanic fixing a broken machine, she is a fully awakened human being in a world of sleeping ghosts. And as she looks out at the thousands of citizens still trapped in their chemical slumber, she realizes that the ultimate weapon against the silo isn't a bomb or a gun. It is the truth, and the agonizing process of waking up. The darkness inside the air ducts of the silo is never truly empty. It is filled with the rhythmic, heavy thumping of the massive ventilation fans down below, a sound that every citizen hears from the moment they are born to the moment they die. It is a sound that is supposed to bring comfort, a mechanical heartbeat proving that the structure is alive and keeping them safe from the toxic wasteland outside. But to Juliette Nichols, lying perfectly still in the cramped, dusty metal tunnel, that heartbeat feels like a countdown. Her skin is cold, drenched in a thick, freezing sweat that smells of old grease and fear. Her hands are shaking so violently that she has to press her palms hard against the cold steel floor just to keep them quiet. The compliance drugs are entirely gone from her system now, and her body is paying a brutal, agonizing price for its new freedom. This is the phase the architects of the silo feared the most, the phase they spent 200 years trying to prevent through their secret medical programs. It is called the waking shock. When a human mind is suddenly forced to process the raw, unfiltered weight of reality after decades of chemical suppression, it does not simply become clear. It fractures. The brain, suddenly flooded with